Well, unfortunately, now that we're getting into the 21st season of NCIS, I feel like it's going to be a lot more difficult for me to come up with funny intros to describe what's happening, since a lot of these episodes are very thin on content, to be fair. But one thing I can definitely do here is pay respect and say rest in peace to David McCallum. I know it's been a couple years since all of this happened, but he definitely brought a lot of life to this show, and I honestly do think not having him on for the past couple seasons, it did hurt some of my enjoyment overall. So massive respect to all the work he's put in through his life, and I really do hope his friends and family are doing okay now. With all that being said, let's get into the review. What's up guys, Mason the Brock Anderson here, and this is NCIS Season 21, Episode 1, Algun Dia. So jumping into the 21st season of NCIS, because heck, I've done it for so long, why not another 3, I think? Pretty sure I saw Season 23, and I think there are more episodes coming, so I don't even know what season they're on right now. I will say, looking at Season 21, apparently it is a shorter season for some reason. Not entirely sure why. Probably look it up, but I'm a little too lazy. So there are only 10 episodes, which means I'll be doing 2 episodes at a time, get 5 reviews out of this. I think that should be enough. But kicking off Season 21, we deal with the big cliffhanger that Season 20 ended with, Torres pointing the gun at the guy who ruined his family's life. We get a little bit more backstory about that in this episode at the beginning. A few more explanations later on as far as why he left. And overall, I mean, it's fine. I think it was pretty predictable if you know the formula for these shows. You kind of figure Torres didn't kill him, which means he was probably protecting somebody, which means it's likely his sister. Then they figure that out about halfway through the episode, so probably not going to be her, which only leaves the mother of the one kid who was in prison, and that's who it is. I will say the ending was pretty unsatisfying overall. You've got her running off, leaving a confession letter, which she just says that apparently he spouted all of the truth to her, and then he got angry and attacked her, and then she shot him in self-defense. I don't know how any of that makes sense. She's probably lying about that. Don't know why he would tell her what he was doing in the first place. And then the fact that she just runs away. We don't ever see what happens with her kid. I guess he gets out of prison maybe, but even if he does, his mom's on the run now. So it just feels like it was a very rushed ending to kind of be like, okay, well, we can't have Torres go to prison. We don't want to make it where his sister is the one who did it, because that would be too sad. So yeah, this random mother that came in all upset about him, that'll be a shock, because she seemed to be in love with him still, and she was crying whenever they told. That's basically every murderer on this type of show. That one person that is so beat up, so torn up about the person who died, to the point where you're just like, well, that seems like they couldn't possibly have done it, because look how sad they are. That's always the one who did it. But there's just so many loose ends, and on top of that, the whole reason Torres got this guy sent to begin with is because he saw him talking to this kid in prison. The kid, we don't even see what happens with him. The last we see of him, Torres is trying to explain what happened, and then he gets attacked by the Russian guys that were there last season. And then he gets stabbed, and then Parker's talking to him in the infirmary, and then it just moves from there, and that's it. We don't even see him get out of prison. We don't know what happens to the guys who attacked him. So yeah, it just feels like everything didn't matter by the end of all of this. I'll also say I was not a big fan of a couple of the other side characters. I think the one guy that works in the tech room, we've seen him before. I don't know if he's going to start becoming a recurring character. If he is, not really a fan of that. It's a little over the top with some of his deliveries. I don't know how much of it is the actor and how much of it is director or writing. Like him running into the room when the FBI show up again. They're here! What is that? Who in real life acts like that? And then on top of that, this Agent Rose that worked with the FBI is now joining NCIS at the end. And I don't really feel like that was justified. She came in and was nothing but condescending and a little arrogant, to be honest. And then all of a sudden, Knight tries to appeal to her better senses, which she apparently does have out of nowhere. She tells him what's going on with the arraignment, and then off screen, she apparently has a confrontation with her boss, gets fired, and then she joins NCIS's tech room. So not only does it come out of nowhere, but like I said, she was mostly just arrogant and condescending for most of this episode, so I'm not really excited to see more of her. So all in all, I mean, it was fine as far as Torres' story. There was some good moments of acting there from Wilmer that I think really brought some of the emotion home, but the overall writing of the story just wasn't that interesting. Very bare bones as far as an NCIS episode goes. And a lot of those funnier moments that typically made me laugh, and I don't really even remember what seasons it was, but there were several seasons. I feel like it was shortly after Tony left the show. There was a lot of episodes where I felt like I wasn't really invested. The crimes themselves weren't all that interesting, but the character interactions were funny. They made me laugh, and that's what kept me going with the show for so long. I feel like we're losing that. Like, a lot of these interactions are not funny. They're more so goofy, which might make the little kids laugh. I don't know how many little kids are watching this show where people are getting killed every episode. Like the conversations between Jimmy and Knight whenever they steal the body, which, by the way, that just gets brushed under the rug. The FBI apparently knew they were stealing the body, and they just let it go, even though Rose was talking a big game about looking into them for covering up a murder. So unfortunately, I do think NCIS for me has just lost its charm. So I'm mostly just here to see, is there anything rage-inducing? Is there anything that is so bad it's kind of hilarious? That is how I feel about this show right now. I will say it does end on a bit of a cliffhanger, but I do know what it's about. I did know that David McCallum passed away at some point over the past few years. And I did go to IMDb just to look up who Agent Rose was, because I thought she looked familiar, but I didn't recognize her from anything. But I did see that the second episode was rated like a 9.6. I'm like, holy crap, what is that about? And then whenever the episode ended this way, I looked at the description to confirm, and yeah, the next episode is going to be mourning Ducky, and probably also mourning David McCallum in the process, which is probably going to hurt, but we'll see what they decide to do with it. On to the next episode. I'll see you guys there. And now episode 2, the stories we leave behind. So I'm going to go ahead and get the case itself out of the way, because it was not that interesting. Because bare bones, what it boils down to is a politician trying to besmirch the name of a fallen soldier, calling him a drug addict. Ducky was trying to look into it, found some stuff that he was going to give to the daughter, but unfortunately passed away before then. And so it's just the team trying to do right by this girl and her father, and also to honor Ducky's memory and the last thing he was looking into before he passed. And it's fairly straightforward. They find out he was trying to cover up a heroin operation. They end up using Ducky's autopsy as well as the testimony of another Marine to take down the politician. I will say probably the dumbest part of this episode was the way the Marine walked in. Because they were talking about earlier, who's the jury going to believe? Me, some homeless guy, or this guy with all this money? And so they very clearly had him clean up, put on something that looks more professional. But the way he walks in was so stupid. It was legitimately a superhero. That's right. Me. It's really dumb. But like I said, it was pretty simplistic, nothing really that interesting to it. But I wanted to get that out of the way quickly to talk about the stuff that was really awesome. Because the way they utilized a lot of these older scenes with Ducky to not only show how much the character meant to the rest of the team, but also to showcase the talent that David McCallum had. I thought it was a really nice moment. So many great scenes that tied in with the main story, some of the conversations they had with him that you could tell affected these characters and brought them to where they are. And then the icing on the cake, having Tony show up at the end, I thought was a really nice touch. Him having a little conversation with Jimmy. I would have liked to see him interact with everybody. We did get a few lines with him and McGee, but it would have been nice to see him interact with both McGee and Jimmy a little bit longer. But that little conversation he had with Jimmy was just really very poignant. I think it's hitting me a little bit harder than it normally would, because I actually just lost my grandfather last year. And I do remember being at the funeral and people sharing these stories, some funny, some heartfelt, but just remembering all the people that were there to honor his life. It really does speak to the person he was. And I think that's very true of what they've done here with Ducky's character, is showing how it wasn't just these conversations, it wasn't just these stories that he told people, it's also this team, how he brought them together, and how at times, like Leon said, he was the glue that kept them all cohesive. So it was a very, very well done episode. I think it's a great way to honor not only the character of Ducky, but also the actor as well. And it makes for a very good episode, which I don't think is going to be commonplace, because this show is kind of, as I said before, lost my interest overall. But it's nice that they still had the opportunity to bring some emotion out of me that wasn't just boredom or frustration. But that'll do it for these 2 episodes. So with all that being said, cue the outro. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that review. I hope you enjoyed it. First and foremost, please leave your thoughts in the comments down below. I love having discussions with people, so whatever your thoughts were, whether you agree or disagree with me, please leave them down below. Obviously, no spoilers. Also, if you did find yourself enjoying this review and you want to see more, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out. I also have a gaming channel as well as a channel where I talk about soccer, so if you want to give those a follow as well, that would be much appreciated. And lastly, if you want to help me improve upon the quality of these channels, I do have a Patreon. All of this is in the description below. With all that being said, I hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to y'all later. Peace out.